Would you have preferred a bigger opposition?
I think it's healthy to have an opposition which is effective, because it keeps the government on its toes. I would like to have had it, although I'm not going to do anything at all to create it.
Imagine a country written off, a desert wasteland, one of the poorest countries on earth. That was Botswana. No roads, no hospitals, zero infrastructure, high illiteracy, and very high poverty rate. This was the situation of Botswana at independence. Its neighbors thought it will not survive, and even its former owners, the British, were happy to leave it alone to collapse. But one man saw a different future. That man was Sir Seretse Khama, a leader exiled for the crime of love who will rise against all the odds to forge not just a country, but an African miracle.
I must hasten to caution, however, that we are still very far from the end of the struggle.
Upon gaining independence in 1966, Botswana was the third poorest country in the whole world. The country had only 22 graduates and 100 high school graduates. The majority of its population were herders and subsistence farmers. For a country about the size of France, Botswana had only 12 kilometers of tarred roads. This was at a time when African countries were building airports. With no universities or hospital, Botswana was written off as a desert for bushmen. A decade after independence, Botswana was recording a budget surplus. 5 decades later, Botswana has a GDP per capita of over $18,000, which is more than the GDP per capita of Brazil and Argentina combined, more than 9 times the GDP per capita of Nigeria. The story of this miracle hinged upon the leadership of Sir Seretse Khama. In this episode, we'll learn the life and legacy of this great African, to me, the most underrated African leader of all time. Before I proceed, kindly support my channel by subscribing and liking this video. It takes just a second to do both. Born in 1921, Seretse Khama was heir to the Bamangatu Kingdom, a position of influence within the British Protectorate of Botswana, then known as Botswanaland. He was named Seretse, which translates to the clade that binds, to signify the resolution of a conflict between his father and grandfather. The clade that binds will eventually tear his tribe apart. Khama's father died when he was just 4 years old, propelling him into the rule of Ngosi, which was the king, at just 4 years of age. His uncle, Shidegi Khama, acted as regent, ensuring continuity and stability during his formative years. His life took a dramatic turn when he pursued his studies first in South Africa, then in Britain, where he fell in love with Ruth Williams, a white English woman. Their interracial marriage sent shockwaves through both Britain and South Africa, where racial segregation was deeply entrenched.
In those days, the racial situation in London was not very good, and white and black did not go out together, especially a white girl with a black man. They wanted to be married in the Anglican Church. Unfortunately, Sir Seretse wrote to the London Missionary Society asking them to stop the wedding, and they contacted the Bishop of London, and he telephoned the vicar the morning of the marriage to say he wasn't to marry them.
South Africa's apartheid regime, fearing a powerful mixed-race leader on its border, pressured the British government to exile Khama. The British, seeking to appease their regional ally, complied. Khama, once a prince, was now a stateless man, his destiny bound to the whims of distant powers.
I wish to say that I'm sadly disappointed with the undemocratic decision of the British government in exiling me from my country. Before I left my home, I was given an assurance by the British representatives there that I would be allowed to return.
This event had one advantage for Khama. He gained widespread international fame. Khama met his wife, Ruth Williams, in a dance organized by the London Missionary Society. She was the daughter of a retired officer of the British Army in India. The marriage was initially opposed by the elders of the Bamangatu people, who were upset that Khama had not married someone from his own tribe. However, upon his return to the village in 1950, Khama received popular approval after a series of public meetings, and the elders reaffirmed him as a king. Although this resolution had been reached between Khama and his kinsmen, the neighboring South Africa and Southern Rhodesian governments felt threatened by this marriage. South Africa had enacted a law in 1949 banning interracial marriages to further and reinforce apartheid. Therefore, they opposed the idea of an interracial couple ruling in neighboring Botswana land. The National Party of South Africa banned the couple from visiting South Africa. This ban also included not visiting Mafeking, which served as the administrative capital of Botswana land. The government appealed to Great Britain to exercise its power over Botswana land as a British protectorate to strip Khama of his chieftainship. Britain, which was heavily in debt after the Second World War, were under pressure to grant this request because of the cheap gold and uranium they were getting from South Africa. Bowing to this pressure, Britain commenced a judicial inquiry into Khama's fitness to rule the Bamangatu people, and subsequently ruled that Khama was fit, but his marriage would pose a threat to international relations. As suspected, Britain, bowing to pressure from South African government, suppressed the report of the judicial inquiry and exiled Khama and his wife from Botswana land in 1951. Khama and his wife remained exiled for 5 years. In 1956, the couple were allowed into Botswana land after Khama had renounced the throne. Because of the widespread acceptance he had gained among his kinsmen, the Bamangatu people refused to comply with the order from Britain to find a replacement for Khama. Despite this immense obstacle, Khama refused to be sidelined. Returning from exile in 1956, he boldly entered into the political arena. Renouncing his tribal claims to solidify his commitment to a united national future, he founded the Botswana Democratic Party in 1962. Khama's charisma and political strategy propelled him to become the Prime Minister in 1965, and in 1966, first president of a newly independent Botswana. Now he had a country with big problems.
And in Botswana, miners unearthing a 1,000-carat diamond, which experts believe is the third largest gem-quality stone to ever be mined.
Sir Seretse Khama didn't just forge a nation, he transformed its fortune. With the discovery of diamonds, Botswana became an African outlier. While the likes of Mobutu of DR Congo and many African presidents saw an opportunity to enrich themselves with African resources, Khama saw diamonds as an opportunity, not a temptation. He managed these riches with unprecedented transparency, ensuring profits flowed not to the elite but to the people. Botswana grew from the third poorest country to the fastest growing economy in the whole world within a decade. Between 1968 and 1974, Botswana economy was growing at the rate of 10% per annum. Khama believed deeply in education. Schools sprang up across the country, laying the foundation for skilled workers and entrepreneurs. He also understood the need for a diverse economy. Tourism, agriculture, and small businesses all received government support. He refused to bow to pressure, to kick out the whites from his country, to give the underqualified indigenes an unfair advantage. For Khama, competence was more important than tribalism. Unlike many African states struggling with instability or greed and corruption, Khama built a peaceful democracy. He balanced tradition and progress, earning him trust among tribal lands. This stability, this sense of fairness reassured investors and spurred growth. He entered partnership with far-flung countries and regional blocs such as the EU to supply beef meat. The results were astounding. Under Khama's leadership, Botswana went from desperate poverty to an African success story. Botswana is among the few African countries which recorded no civil war, no coup d'etat since independence. The country operated without a military for almost 2 decades. His policies weren't magic, but they were revolutionary. Transparent resource management, focus on people, and unwavering commitment to good governance. While other African countries faltered, Botswana thrived, a testament to his extraordinary leadership. Sadly, Khama died in office in 1980 after he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He was succeeded by his vice president, Kwit Masire. His legacy did not stop there. His son will eventually win the 2008 election in Botswana and lead the nation for 10 years. When great African leaders are mentioned, we often hear the names of Ghana's Kwame Nkrumah, South Africa's Nelson Mandela, Tanzania's Julius Nyerere, among others. Seretse Khama deserves to be at the top of our lips. But he was the leader who took his country from poverty to wealth. He was the leader who met an uneducated populace and made sure they got an education. He was the leader who managed his country's resources better than all African leaders. As I said earlier, to me, Seretse Khama is Africa's greatest leader, albeit an underrated one. Perhaps if many people know of the legacy of Seretse Khama, his story can inspire other African countries to rise out of the ashes and take their place among the seats of the nation. So, who is your greatest African leader, and tell me why? You can do this in the comment box. Till I see you again, kindly share, subscribe, and tell others about this channel. Thank you.